Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share a story that we can relate with either because we witnessed it, we have experienced it ourselves, or even observed, when it's happened to somebody in the workplace. This is the story of a young engineer. She's a female, from what I read. She's a female engineer. She was working in a toxic environment. She was feeling undervalued. She was feeling, really, really down. And eventually, she was being let to go. Now, this is the twist in this story I'm about to tell you, because what happened was this engineer laughed when she was fired. And I'm sure before you will say, was that not out of disrespect? No, it wasn't out of disrespect. It was because she had gotten an opportunity. She was one step ahead of her employers. The story comes from an online community of women engineers, and while it sounds almost hilarious, it carries powerful lessons, just not for us as employees, but as managers or management or even HR professionals alike. So let's dive into it. Our storyteller has been working in a toxic workplace for several months. They knew that the environment was unhealthy. This is what I call situational awareness. So they were aware of their situation. And we'll define this as we go into the story proper. Now, they promised themselves that they were not going to stay long in that organization because they knew that it was a toxic place. They began job hunting, but quietly. That was quite a smart move, wasn't it? They didn't wait until they got unbearable. They didn't wait until the environment took the better part of them. They prepared in advance. After a few weeks, boom, success. They landed a new job and they were due to start in 2 weeks. Relief in sight. Relief, that was what they thought. But then management came in and called them for a meeting one fateful day. And what you're about to hear will shock you. You don't seem happy, management said. So we're letting you go. Imagine that. Is the solution of resolving unhappiness allowing members to leave, or sacking, or firing, or terminating a contract of an employee? I don't know, but that's really, really shocking. If an employee isn't looking happy, and the next thing that you thought of as management or as the manager or whoever this person is was to let them go. Maybe some other things have been brewing behind the scene that we don't know. But of course, from the story, knowing that it's a toxic environment, I'm sure a lot of things were brewing. Anyway, here's the best part. The employee calmly replied, "That's fine. I'm starting a new job in 2 weeks anyway." I could imagine the look on management's face. Some managers, some management don't understand that contracts of employment are like every other contract in life. So it's a two-way thing. The both parties have to be happy, both parties have to be in alignment for that contract to continue. And anybody can end the contract just following the terms and conditions of the contract. And in this way, the manager would have been shocked, of course, because from the story, the manager was caught off guard and asked, "Weren't you planning to give us 2 weeks' notice?" Hmm. To which my storyteller then said, "Are you kidding me? Did you give me 2 weeks' notice just a while ago, before terminating my contract, or before saying that you were going to let me go? Did you give me 2 weeks' notice?" Sometimes reality is stranger than fiction, and let us just explain what situational awareness means. Situational awareness is our ability to perceive our environment, understand our environment, recognize the potential hazard, and predict their impact on us and on other people. In this story, the storyteller was mindful of their environment. They knew that it was a toxic environment and they respond appropriately and in a timely manner also. They knew that this job was affecting their mental health, and so they had to prepare well in advance before they were caught off guard. And just before you say that was great, I need to let you know that that really wasn't easy. Sometimes when we hear stories, they are quite easy because it's a summary of everything that has happened. But I can tell you, as somebody that has been in a toxic environment, that while you are preparing your exit, it's usually not as fancy, it's usually not as easy, it's usually not as smiling, or you don't have those smiling episodes as we have read in this story. Short, brief, concise, but it is the lessons that we learn from it that we're going to take home. So, like our storyteller, some of the things that they did was they updated their CV, they ensured that it was prepared for the application tracking system, they used AI, they used different formats. They even, from what the story said, that they leaned on online resources like YouTube, like different resources preparing for interviews, and also leaning on communities, and learned different things while they were going through all of these. They had a goal in mind and they focused on their goal. Now, in part of that preparation, our storyteller also told us, which is one thing I really liked about this story. It was quite concise, but it really captured everything. They said to us that although they were preparing, experience was also on their side. So they had experience, they mixed it with preparation, and boom, they got multiple interviews lined up, and that preparation gave them the resilience, to laugh instead of panic in that kind of situation when their employers told them that they were going to let them go. Now, let's look at this from the lesson perspective. What can we learn? And I'm just going to be looking at this from a three-side perspective. From the side of an employee, which we all are, whether you're an HR person or whatever, you are still an employee, isn't it? So, as an employee, we're going to be looking at it as managers. What are the things that we should learn? Because I want to believe that even people listening could be managers. We're all prone to mistakes. We all make mistakes, and we can learn one or two things. And also, as HR, my wonderful community, to myself as well, what has this story taught us? The first thing that we want to say about, from the perspective of the employee, what are the things that you need to learn? Have a plan in place, but before you have that plan, be aware of your environment. If you are in an environment that is a loving, family friendly environment, a place where you are loving to go every day, I would say to you, make yourself better, upskill yourself, so that you can get promoted in that environment, and you can do different things in that environment. But if you are in an environment, as a storyteller, that is a toxic environment, the first things first is to prepare. Before you hit rock bottom, you want to start planning your exits. So often, people stay in toxic environments until the burnout leaves them, and they've got no energy to job hunt. Trust me, job hunting is also a job in itself. So if you don't have the right energy, if you don't have the right flow and motivation, you just will not be able to job hunt, you'll not be able to plan your exit. So first thing first, start planning your exit before you hit rock bottom. Secondly, they were protected financially and emotionally. Of course, we all know that it goes without a saying that when you lose your source of income, or even one source of income, you've got that financial, flow cut off. And what that means is that it leaves you stressed. That's the truth. Financially stressed, emotionally stressed, because you are thinking, where is my next, daily bread going to come from? Even if you've got those stack of savings, investments here and there, the moment that you're not applying into it and you're just taking from it, that will give you that stress. So from our writer, we learned that they were prepared, so they protected themselves financially and emotionally by ensuring that they were just ahead of their employer. So I'm sure they've been seeing the handwriting on the wall, they've been seeing the body language of their managers, the way they'll be looking at them, just feeling this person doesn't fit into this environment. One of these days we'll get this person out, and they were well prepared. Thirdly, they found a community that was supportive. Yes, They reached out to people online, they learned things from different communities. There are loads of communities out there. There's YouTube, there's different places where you can learn. Honestly, there's loads of things that I personally have learned from YouTube. Something as simple as DIY, I learned them on YouTube. There are various communities that we can all learn from, and just plugging ourselves into those right communities. That is where we'll build our resilience. That is when, when somebody tells you that they are going to fire you, you're going to laugh instead of panic. Now, let's break this down from the point of the employer, because, of course, the employer also has something to learn. We've only heard the side of the story of the employee and not the employer. But nevertheless, from this story, we can cut out one or two things that the employer can learn. One of the first things that I would say that an employer would learn is that termination is not the right thing to do if you feel somebody is not happy in their job. So if somebody isn't happy, are there various ways that you can make them good fit? Are there different things that you can do? Yes, there are best HR practices that you can put into place that person can either come up to be interviewed. Because I want to believe that those were one of the things that you looked at the interview. This person is not a total no, like, they don't fit in any way. And yes, there are some times that people don't fit in and they will just have to be, out of the organization. But in a circumstance that, somebody is not happy, what is making them unhappy? Have a conversation with them. That's the first thing I would say. Find out what the cause of this unhappiness is, even if it's in their behavior, they're causing chaos. What is causing it? What are the processes to deal with a conduct issue? What are the processes to deal with a performance issue? Because you want to find out what exactly is the issue. Is it a conduct issue in terms of their behavior being chaotic, them bullying other staff members, not making other people, be motivated at their job? Or is it their performance? Are they dragging the team backwards? And is that why they're unhappy? Because sometimes not knowing what to do really wears people down. So if you can put a performance plan in place and bring them up to speed, maybe little trainings here and there that they can do, that would be helpful rather than just taking that, putting them out of the way is the best way. The second thing is offer feedback. So from your discussion, what did you observe? What did you hear? Because that's the point. You have to listen when you're having that conversation. What did you hear? Did you pick anything? Do you think they've got stressors that are work related? Because sometimes some people are being bullied in the workplace. They're unable to say that they're being bullied. And it just comes out in their attitude. It comes out from them being withdrawn. Sometimes it comes out from them being rebellious. Sometimes it even comes out from them, being underperformance in their job. So you want to check, are there work-related stressors that are causing it? If there are work-related stressors that you can either eradicate, eliminate, or even mitigate against, that's a win-win for you because you won a member of your team back and you've also won that reputation because they will go back home, they will talk to their friends and say, oh, there was a time that I was having downtime and my manager discussed with me and they were able to fish that out. Even personal stressors can make somebody feel down. Personal stressors can make somebody feel weak. You want to be checking out, are they personal stressors? And if you put things in place, will that help it? Or do you want them to be off work for a while, so that they can go get themselves together, go see the GP, for example, if it's a health concern, or even if it's a health concern of a loved one, it could even be financial stress. Honestly, there are so many things that can stress people that when they come into their workplace, they are not like the 100% that we're expecting. And then ask them if you can provide support. That's the first things that we should do. These steps are very important. Instead, the management in this story went straight to firing this employee. They sent a signal, not just to this employee, but to their colleagues and to everyone watching. I'm talking about consultants. I'm talking about even clients. Sometimes when clients come into your organization, they will sense that the employees are not happy. You understand? They will sense it. So it is the way that you treat your employees sometimes that they will treat your clients. So you want to have, employees that you value rather than firing them, and asking a staff member that they didn't give 2 weeks notice when you didn't give 2 weeks notice just a while ago while you were trying to fire them. Isn't that hilarious? Honestly, it could be that What was management thinking? Did they think that they've just done it to the staff member? Do they not realize that doing it to the staff member is also sending signal to other people that, guy, this is not a place that will be valued. In fact, you can lose valuable employees by them just seeing the way that you treat other people. Guys, let me know in the comment section if you have witnessed, your manager maltreating, harassing, bullying another staff member, and how did you feel about that? Because for me, that is sending me a signal that this is not the right place for me to work. Like, what am I doing here? Like, start planning your exit strategy. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Drop in the comment section. I want to know what that tells you. And let's just drop our advice, to managers, to the employees, and also to this storyteller, because yes, they've gone out of the organization, they've gotten another job. We don't even know what trauma they will be going through. Just drop that word and they will see those kind words, and also what you've learned from their story. It's a good way for all of us to talk about it. Let's talk about the last point, for HR. What are the things that HR professionals will learn from this story? For me, for first things, right, HR should create that place where people are free to speak up. They can pick up their calls or their phone and talk to an HR professional, be anonymous and just say, this is what's going on in my team. I would like for you to come in, I would like for HR to come in and say one or two things. I would like for HR to come and observe what's going on. I would like for HR to come and maybe coach my manager, for example. So those are the things that HR professionals would learn from this story. Because for me, it's like this story, it's more or less like the manager, or just sort of took laws into their hands, I want to believe. Or have they been speaking to HR about this staff member's performance? Were there processes that they followed? I didn't hear anything around documentation. I didn't hear anything about a meeting. So I want to believe that the manager or the management, whoever that was, took laws into their hands. What did we learn from this story? For me, I learned that we shouldn't wait to be desperate. We should start preparing. If we feel that we're in a toxic environment, if we start feeling devalued, if we start feeling stressed, demotivated, that's one thing that I feel that I learned from this story. Secondly, I learned that we should keep our resume updated, honestly, and practice interviews regularly. Sometimes, even when you're not job hunting, just throw your CV, just throw in the application. And if you are called for a job, just go in, speak. Find out if you've learned anything differently from the last time you did an interview. Find out what part of your job you're putting into practice, because that way you're bringing that part of your job into practice. You're making yourself better at what you do. Remember, your mental health matters, and the best strategy sometimes could be exit. And one of the good strategy for exiting is great preparation. You want to prepare, you want to be sure that you have the right things in place. You're not panicking immediately when you're trying to leave an organization, because it might leave you in being desperate. It might leave you in not even preparing well for interviews, and you go for those interviews and you just realize that you're not getting called back, or for either the second stage, or you're not even shortlisted, or one of the best candidates, because emotionally you're not ready. You have to be ready. You have to go through that phase. It could be gradual, it could be fast for some people. But I just say to people, take things in your own pace. Don't feel that I want to do this in 1 month. Yes, set some good goals for yourself, but set realistic goals, goals that you'll be able to achieve. That's one thing that I've learned from this story. And that brings us to the end of our video today. But this story for me is about someone who laughed when their employer told them that they were going to fire them. It might sound hilarious. It might sound like, great God, they got it, great, smart move, everything. But I think it took a lot from this person. It took a lot for them in terms of preparing. We saw all they did, how they prepared for the interviews. We saw all of that. And the truth is, for most of us, when we lose our jobs, we don't laugh, because we haven't prepared. So preparation changes everything. That's what the story tells me. That's what this story has taught me. And I can really resonate with this story because I've been in toxic environments and I've also been in environments that are not toxic. So, guys, I would like to hear your comments. How have you managed in a toxic environment? What was your strategy? What was your exit strategy? How did you prepare, to leave that place without hurting yourself, without having that traumatic, you know, post-traumatic syndrome, so that when you move somewhere else, you're not carrying those stressors and you're not feeling like everybody else is not to be trustworthy. What did you do? How did you get out of that mess? That's what I want to hear. Please continue to drop your comments down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video if you found the story inspiring or if you learned one or two things from this story. You might not even be the one that will learn from it. Share with your friends that are probably going through something like this, to encourage them, to build them up that preparation can change everything. Please start to plan your exit strategy because your health is very important. You need to be healthy, you need to be sound, you need a sound mind to be in work. I would love to hear all of that comment from you. Please subscribe, please like, hit the notification bell so that you can get more inspiring stories when we share them on this video. Until we meet in our next video, stay calm. Bye.